Hello and welcome to the virtual conference live talks with myself, Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman. And our guest on the show now is somebody very special to me because he invented something that is quite remarkable. On one side, the genius in it, I think, is that it's so simple. Not just simple, but 2 lines, right? I mean, you can't really get much more simple than that. Maybe you could just use 1 line even. But the idea is that inside this framework that my guest invented, created a tool basically that we can fit everything that we learn about acceptance and commitment therapy, acceptance and commitment training, acceptance and commitment coaching, and just generally contextual behavioral science and the behavior of a human being. We can fit it all in a pictorial, graphical way, which I find quite extraordinary. So much so that personally I use it in my clinics with people that I see one-to-one. I use it in my groups, whether they're coaching groups or whether they're therapy groups. I use it with just my own decision making and finding out what are the things that are going on in my life at this present moment and how I can actually do things to improve the quality of my life. And we can see all this within this wonderful tool that my guest basically invented. Now, I generally do not like using the word tools when it comes to human beings. Tools are okay for cars, tools are okay for doing DIY around the house. I generally like skills and, learning about experiences. But I really make an exception for this because this actually is a tool. It's something that you can use and draw and feel. And I actually use it in 3D. I act it out. I put it on the floor. I can do it on little pieces of paper. It is so flexible that it's actually quite ingenious. So this is not about me. This is about how we can use the wisdom and knowledge and experience of my guests to help you, the people watching and listening to this, during the days that we're living in, this days of distress, really, but also moving forward, giving us hope, seeing how we can move out of this and onwards when the time comes. What my guest is going to teach us is not just for this particular period in time. This will, if you take it on board, will help you for basically the rest of your life, I think. It is that significant. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest. Now, please say hello in the comments. Tell us you're here. Give us your questions. This is an interactive program that we have. So, please put your comments in, and if I see them, if they come up, then we'll introduce them and we'll talk to Kevin directly. Without further ado, please give a big welcome to Dr. Kevin Polk.
Hello, folks.
Hello, sir. Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining me. It's really, really exciting for me, as I explained, and you probably heard there. It is significant. I use it all the time. The matrix is something very special to me. I teach it. I use it. It's part of my clinical side. It's part of my coaching side. And yeah, it's great for me. It's very exciting for me. It's not the first time I've spoken to you, but thank you so much for spending, you're also in this together with all of us. So to give of your time, to contribute of your time, and to come on and give us of your knowledge and wisdom. Kevin Polk, thank you very much. Over to you.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I'm coming to you from Maine, which is the upper northeast corner of the United States. Really, it juts up into Canada. And So that's where I'm from, and I'm housebound. Not particularly leading my life much different than I did before. I've been broadcasting out of my little place here with these guitars and stuff for many years. So I enjoy doing this. And a little bit about myself. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. Really, I got into graduate school as an experimental psychologist and then was retreaded over, or whatever you call it, into a clinical psychologist. So that led to me diagramming things and playing with things as an experimental psychologist would do in my clinical work. That's probably how the ACT matrix came about. And I started playing with the ACT matrix, or ACT in general, in 2005. Got addicted to it. Went to work simplifying it, and the simplification that was finally called the ACT matrix came about in 2009, and I've been teaching it ever since. And I teach it almost every week of my life.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And we're going to actually see a little bit about the matrix.
Yeah, that's what I do.
In a few minutes, of course. And I love the sweatshirt. Please take note.
Yeah, the Matrix Talk. We have a program. We teach for free. We teach the Matrix for free 3 times a week, and we named it Matrix Talk, where curiosity meets workability.
Wonderful. Now,
that's the T-shirt.
Yeah, you got the T-shirt, and as I said to you just before we went on, I definitely want one of these.
We'll make that available.
Before we get into it, though, you're in the same position as us, and what I'd like to know from you, just a kind of a human perspective, how are you dealing with this personally? How are you getting through this on a day-to-day basis as Kevin Polk, the person, not necessarily the clinical psychologist or the teacher of the matrix or the musician, which I see that you've got quite a few things there.
I'm a whole lot better matrix player than I am guitar player.
It must be amazing to spend a few hours with you while you're playing. So do you do a lot of playing just now? Is this the time? How do you cope personally with the situation that we're in?
Well, since I do the matrix, at least I train people every day in the matrix. And so it's not like I have to go to it and find it and use it. So I am a little bit different because I'm going to encounter it several times a day as I train people how to use it. But like anything else that has to do with acceptance and commitment training and therapy, if you do it with somebody else, you do it with yourself. So you're always coming back to that original question, which is, who's important to you? By the way, folks, that's the first question of the matrix, which is to ask people who's important to you, and you review on a piece of paper or out loud, well, who's important to me? And you go through that. So I go through the matrix to answer that question. I do use it. Just don't have to remind myself to use it because it's part of my business. It's what I do.
You're using it these days with the whole coronavirus thing and things like that. This is actually something that you're doing with, like, it might not be every day, but this is how you're actually coping with these days.
Yes, and I have. There's a thought that comes to my mind often. I will share with your audience, and along the way of teaching a few thousand people the matrix, I've run across a lot of interesting people who quote all kinds of mindful stuff and philosophical things, at you and stuff, and you hear a lot, and it's one that I heard way back in graduate school, but I hear it now, comes into my head. And somebody asked, what's the path to enlightenment? How do you find enlightenment? And the old sage said, well, chop wood, carry water, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired.
Okay, sounds good.
And so, as I go through these days of the pandemic, I try to remember that, now, obviously those are metaphors, but,
Yeah.
well, who would you be chopping wood for? Well, it'd probably be doing things to take care of yourself and your family, right? That would be chopping wood, so we can cook and stay warm. Carry water, same thing, so I can drink, my family can drink, we can cook and all that. So that sort of represents all that kind of stuff. But the actual physical things that you can do, that's what chop wood, carry water means. You can go physically do something in the service of who's important to you, including yourself. The other side of that equation is, of course, eat when you're hungry and sleep when you're tired, which is notice when you have uncomfortable things inside of you, like hunger and tiredness, and go about doing practical things to reduce that unpleasantness. And if you sort of pace yourself and think of that way, I find it comforting to get through this pandemic, because it's a process, right? We wake up and we deal with it every day.
Absolutely.
I joked with my wife that I was going to come on here and you were going to ask me, what to do during the pandemic. And I was going to tell everybody to go drink 2 glasses of water. She laughed because she knew what I mean. And folks, that will do nothing for your pandemic stuff, nothing. But it's the urge to tell people what to do. If you do X, then it's going to fix everything. The answer is it's not a drink something or take something or take a pill or whatever. The answer is in a process of living. And you wake up and you go through this process, and hopefully in going through this process, you come out very intact and even better out on the other side, more learned, more lots of things. So that's what I do. So to put it simply, I do the stuff of very practical things to take care of myself and my family, and very practical things to get rid of uncomfortable feelings, which you probably already guessed. That's one side of the matrix and the other side of the matrix. I've just reduced it to that simple, even simpler language. And by the way, the old story is that's the path to enlightenment. Because most of the time when people say enlightenment, you think of all this fancy stuff. It's the way I say is fancy. No, the road to enlightenment is simple stuff, just the process of living that simple stuff and doing that simple stuff, and I do that, so it helps. It helps me get through things. Now, practical things you really want to hear. I don't listen to very much news because I find that to be very stressful. So I don't listen. So I get busy doing things and move, try and take care of it, and get people and train people in doing the matrix. And I up my training schedule. How's that?
That's amazing.
Matrix more.
Yeah. I think it's not coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. I think but I don't think it's coincidence that you brought that, story and that it's stuck with you. Chopping wood, bringing water, going to sleep, and eating when you're hungry. For me, there's the metaphor, and you explained it great. But for me, that embodies who Kevin Polk is. I don't think you got to the matrix it's so down to earth. It's so simple. And just like you said, you're not really into all the kind of fancy stuff. And I think that's the beauty of it. I love your humor. I love your honesty. I love the fact that you simplify everything really right down, even to the fact of 2 lines. And you can bring a whole philosophy into that. And I think that story also explains that, you know, when he went to the wise guru and they say, you know, show me enlightenment, and he just comes out with 4 what seems very simple things, right? But it's not simple. It embodies everything. So
no, they're not. It's not simple. No,
no,
it sounds simple. It's just not.
it sounds simple, but it's not exactly. Okay, so enough chit chat. Let's first of all, let's just see what our viewers are saying, and
yeah, I typed it up so you can see it.
Yeah, let me just see what we've got here. So we've got a few people saying good evening. We've got hello, Kevin.
Oh, good. That's right. Is it evening in your place?
Well, no, they're coming in from all different parts of the world, Kevin. So I'm in the UK.
Yeah.
So we are just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But this is someone from Israel. Through Facebook, you were in Israel sooner than you expected. Yeah, I contacted you not so long ago and wanted to bring you to Israel. And hopefully we'll be able to do that soon once we're allowed to meet people.
You know, one of these days I'm going to make it.
Oh, no, you're definitely going to make it.
Strange little thing that 3 or 4 times so far in my life, people have tried to bring me to Israel, and it just never has quite got there. Maybe I'll finally get there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let me just check here if there's anything coming in. So Sharon Greenberg says shalom. Hanny's got waving to you. Okay, I've got quite a lot of people coming on. Let's get to the nitty gritty and see what the matrix is. So are you ready? And I'll just, oh no, Miri, just a minute.
Drum roll, oh my.
Kevin, Miri Moore.
There's Miri Moore. Okay, now hold on a minute. Miri right there, she predates the Matrix. She was with me before the Matrix. So it was. I've known her during my development years when I was working very hard to simplify ACT down to the 2 lines. We forgot to tell them I estimate it took me about 17,000 hours of work.
17,000?
Right, to simplify it. It was a lot. You know, they had a lot of stuff in those ACT books.
That's a lot of boiling down. So thank you for that, Mary. Okay, shall I share the screen?
Sure.
Let's go.
This is what I do.
This is what you do. Over to you, Kevin.
The Matrix can be, we'll just start. The main way and the easiest way to start, folks, is to answer the question, who's important to you? So you start in the lower right-hand part. And if you want to, you can get yourself out a piece of paper, draw 2 lines. It's not very hard. You don't have to draw the oval in the middle. That might be harder. And in the lower right, you put who's important to you. I usually start with my wife. I say my wife is important to me. So I write down my wife. Which I think I can get over here and do that. There we go. So I will put, you can tell me, is anybody else saying who's important to them?
Okay, so let's put in the comments who's important to you, and let's see if we can get any interaction. Who is important to you? Put it in the comments now.
We got at least one wife that's important. That's me.
So,
you just shout it out.
Children,
no, that's good. Yeah.
Anyone else? Put it in the comments. Whatever we have, come up with it.
Play, folks.
Friends,
very, very much so.
Put in the comments who is important to you. Who is important to you? Put it in the comments now. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, Kevin, so we just got to give them a call.
Okay, well, who's important to you?
Who's important to me? My you know what? My friends and children for sure, but my neighbor has become extremely important to me.
Oh, yeah, isn't that something? Right, neighbor. Okay.
Somebody's put, my kids, and we've got clients.
Clients, there we go, yes.
Okay. Keep them coming. Keep any who's
important. A lot of times people, I'll put it in there, a lot of times people put pets in there. I like to say that pets are people too.
Yeah. So I've got family and friends, also my country. I don't know if countries are who.
That's fine. The people.
Okay, all right, wonderful.
That's the country. That's a lot of people. Sure.
Yeah, wonderful. Brilliant.
Oh, and so that's how you do it. Then you start there and you do it like that. And then you consider unpleasant stuff that shows up inside of you, like fear. And so I use fear as an example because everybody has fear. But what other kind of stuff shows up inside of folks? Either pandemic stuff or just general stuff that shows up, and it doesn't feel comfortable. Well, we were talking. Remember, we were talking about hunger, right? Hunger doesn't feel good, so that's unpleasant. What other unpleasant stuff?
Put in the comments what unpleasant stuff you might experience. So I can say at the moment that I have quite a certain amount of anxiety.
You betcha.
Yeah, definitely.
That is a biggie.
Yeah, especially now
in these pandemic days.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
The other, huh? Boy, you guys are pretty easy peasy over there. No.
Yeah. So just coming in. So worry.
Worry. There we go.
Yeah. Just takes a bit of time to come in.
That's okay.
We'll take our time.
We're doing a great list. Fear, anxiety.
Oh, somebody's put in here loss of hope.
I love it. Loss of hope.
Loss of hope.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
So anyone else, stick in the comments. What kind of things are... Can maybe you explain a little bit more? What do you mean? Do you mean thoughts as well, or feelings?
Thoughts are fine too, right? I can't take it anymore.
Right. With financial issues showing up.
So, you can put thoughts in quotes the way I just did. Financial issues, you betcha.
Issues, yeah.
Oh, sure. Definitely unpleasant. And I might ask, so when a financial issue shows up.
Kevin, anger.
Anger. Ooh, that's a good one. Got anger.
Okay.
See, we're good. There's unpleasant stuff. And if you're like the rest of us human beings, when fear shows up, you try to reduce it. When hunger shows up, you try to reduce it. You do some behavior to reduce it. So in the upper left, we put behaviors that you would do to reduce the unpleasant stuff, like fear. So popular thing people might do would be to run away if something was frightening them, right?
Right.
So what might we do for hunger?
Well, then go to the fridge.
Go to fridge, exactly.
I know that's one on my to-do list when I get hungry, definitely. Even when I'm not hungry sometimes.
How about for anxiety, though?
Yeah, exactly. That's
good for anxiety, too.
The fridge has a way of satisfying many different types of...
fridge takes care of a lot of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So put in the comments, what kind of stuff do you do when you want to get away from all that unpleasant stuff? What kind of things do you do? Let's just wait and see what comes up, Kevin.
No problem.
Sometimes I do it a little bit less now, but I did in the past just sometimes not get out of bed.
Oh.
Yeah. I have been known to just stay there and, let it all go. Yeah.
Boy, you guys are a bunch of teetotalers over there. You don't do anything.
Well, let's see how brave they are and how brave and what kind of courage we've got when... what kind of things do you do?
I will tell you that over where I live, a lot of times people use some kind of substance to reduce unpleasant stuff. And the substance isn't it could be out of the fridge. You'd have it.
I live in England, the United Kingdom. I come from Scotland, as you know, originally. The favorite substance, of course, is alcohol.
Yay!
And
we'll put alcohol up here.
I'll tell you, these days in the pandemic, it's not easy to get a hold of because the shops are closed and there's big queues and all sorts of things.
They need drive-by alcohol places or whatever.
Right, yeah. Well, I don't know of drive-by ones here, but certainly they might be open, but you're not really allowed out very much to go and get.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let's see if our viewers are. What kind of things would you do, or do you do, in order to get away from that unpleasant stuff like fear or hunger or anxiety or worry, that loss of hope? So what do you do when you get a loss of hope? How do you, kind of relieve yourself? Would that be the right word?
Get relief. Oftentimes, way over here, we put.
Somebody's got talk with friends.
There you go. Perfect.
Friends.
That's a great way. I'm putting in relief. Yeah. You're looking to get relief, but you bet talk with friends is a great way. To get some relief.
Absolutely.
Now that brings up something. We'll be over here in just a moment, and you can put talk with friends over here as well. It just counts on what the intention is, whether you're trying to reduce stuff or increase stuff. But talking with friends is definitely a way of venting and getting relief.
Absolutely.
Oh, a popular one for anger.
Here's another one. Taking a walk in the range of 500 meters. That's probably because that's the regulations these days. But
we're not with that within 500 meters.
Yeah, taking a walk. I know. Before the pandemic, I used to go down to the gym sometimes and just give a good workout.
Yep.
Somebody's got here whining.
Not just we're talking HINING whining.
And somebody's got here artwork.
Yes.
Yeah. And taking a shower. It's all coming in now. So taking a shower.
Oh man, this is great. I love it. We got all kinds of cool stuff.
All kinds of stuff coming in.
Yeah. Now, and some of that stuff, by the way, can fit over here for the stuff that you can do for who's important to you.
But TV as well. Yeah. Netflix, there's a lot of that around.
That's a Netflix, yeah. Netflix, YouTube, whatever.
All sorts of screen stuff, TV screens, internet screens. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a bit guilty at that one as well. And the surfing,
Yep. Oh, yeah. And this all finishes up with what can you do to move toward, forward? What can you do for who's important to you? And some of that stuff is already over on the left-hand side. It's just now you're going to do it with the intention of taking care of yourself for other people. So I'll give you could go talk to them. What else do you do? Oh,
what do you do to
for who's important to you, to move toward who's important to you? What do you do for them?
Okay,
so I know one.
So somebody's got shopping and cooking.
You betcha. Very much things. That's along that chop wood, carry water kind of thing.
Definitely. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I've been bringing my neighbor up constantly over this period because it's been absolutely fantastic. And they do both shopping and cooking for me. And even though I'm not really, I'm not a special case or anything, but they've been so wonderful. And, basically that's what they've been taking care of me. And it's even apart from the shopping or cooking, just phoning somebody, right? Just phoning somebody is wonderful.
Yeah.
And somebody's got here a hug. So, well, in your own household, I suppose that could be allowed.
In your own household, you can do the hug thing. Yes.
You can do the hug thing. And apart from that, there's virtual hugs these days, you know. So even just
A virtual hug.
virtual, and we got someone's put in shopping for my parents. Yeah, definitely.
So you're taking care of your parents.
Yeah, taking care of your parents. It's very worrying sometimes, especially if you've got
very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the things that we can do for the people that are important to us. So even I suppose in these days, there's a lot of homeschooling going on. So that
I have to do it now.
Yeah, got to do it now. There's homeschooling, and it's for the benefit and towards our children. Somebody's asking a question, Kevin, and that is Orna saying, what if usually teens don't know what is important?
It's like, cool, you're noticing you're noticing that you're not sure who and what's important to you. That's a cool thing to notice.
Right. So that's the kind of thing you could if you were doing this with a teen and they'd be like, I don't know what's important.
Yeah. I've been there. I can remember being a teenager and being not sure of that, but you can notice that and get on with things.
Yeah, that's allowed, and that's
very much allowed. By the way, when you're working with somebody like that, this is the art of meeting somebody right where they are.
Right.
So if they're not sure, they're not sure. That's okay.
I remember you once teaching once, and I thought this was fascinating, that if you're asking somebody these questions that you're asking now, and they say something that's possibly not in the right quarter, you would put it down anyway.
I put it anyway, yep. But they gave me an answer. That's fine.
Right.
It'll fix up later on. That's okay.
That's
it's a process. It's not a quiz, it's a process. And so
somebody says in answer to that, tell them that you are proud of them and why.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. All right, but as tell them you're proud of them and why? There you go. Isn't that lovely?
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay. Yeah.
You know what this does? It really kind of in your face that it takes away the judgmental side of us, you know, the wanting to, when you mentioned that urge to teach, to tell people what to do. And it takes away that kind of, you know, you're wrong, you should be doing it like this, or you should be saying this. Whatever it is, just put it down on the matrix.
There's a judgment-free zone.
Judgment-free zone. Yeah.
that's the way we do it. And now to finish up, just so you know, if you say to yourself or say to somebody else, you can say, well, now you can go about noticing who's important to you and what's important to you if you want. You can notice yucky stuff showing up, you know, unpleasant stuff showing up. You can notice as you do away moves. We all do them, so you can just notice yourself doing them. And you can notice when you're doing this stuff for people who are important to you. You can notice that stuff too. And as you go through your day, you might notice all this stuff. And then again, you might not. It's okay either way. But, you know, now you have the opportunity to notice this stuff. I would ask you, do you think that you might have the opportunity to notice any of this stuff in the next day or so?
That's a nice question. Do you have the opportunity?
Might you have the opportunity to notice this stuff in the next day or so?
All right. Okay. And
what do you think? Somebody can type in and say, what do you think? Do you think you're going to have the opportunity to notice any of this stuff?
All right. So Kevin's asking, do you have, put it in the comments now. Do you think you have?
You have? Yeah, you think you might have.
You might have the opportunity to notice
any of this stuff. Any of that stuff.
Any of the stuff that we've just that Kevin's just taught us about in the matrix? Do you think you'll have the opportunity to notice any of that? Stick it in the comments.
That's how you do it.
Let's give them let's give them a little bit. So somebody says definitely.
There we go. Cool.
Okay, wonderful. What else? Put it in the comments if you think you have the opportunity in the next day or so.
And it's this a yes or no. So I probably will, or no, I probably won't. That's all.
Yeah.
And either way is fine.
What's that?
And either way is fine.
Yeah.
Whether you can have the opportunity or not, either way is okay.
So nobody's putting pressure on, because I think in our society, really, Kevin, to get a wee bit philosophical for a second, a lot of the time we feel that we're under pressure to give the right answer. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of pressure.
I understand that, and this isn't one of those.
And this isn't one of those, exactly. So it's either yes or no. Whatever you say is fine. So we've got somebody saying yes. They've got the opportunity. Okay. Anyone else? Let's give them a chance, because it's sometimes a bit of a delay.
Well, we can, and if it's not within, in the rest of your life, do you think you'll ever have the opportunity to notice any of this stuff?
Now you've really expanded it now. Okay, so not even just in a day or two, but in the rest of life. Wow.
Kevin's playing with
relational
frame theory.
Empty space in order to move around here, whether you'll be able to notice that or not. While we're waiting on people answering, do you suggest a specific way that should somebody sit down and do a kind of an imaginary matrix in their mind, or should they not should, but is it more helpful to write it down on a piece of paper, or to do it on their telephones? What do you think the best?
I would say that over my years of doing this, that many people have reported that actually writing it down tends to be most helpful. However, sometimes you just can't. So then just do it in your head. But if you can, write it down, because there's sort of a magic that happens when you write things down.
And you can also kind of see it, don't you, at an objective point of view almost.
It gives you, and if you want to go just a tiny bit technical, what that cues up in you when you write something down and it's a foot or two away from you, after you write it down, there's this part of you called the observer self, who's sort of observing your life. It's the same observer self that if I ask you the question, tell me where you were born, and you would go back in your head and you would say, oh yeah, I was born here. That's that observer self. So if you cue up that observer self, it's helpful to do that, and you get that through writing down. So that's helpful.
That sounds quite effective. Somebody's saying, sure, we have enough time to notice that we notice.
You can notice yourself not noticing too.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. And somebody says, what is the role of the senses here to note when you say to notice?
Well, that's when there's this two parts of you. There's there's five senses. You can call six if you call proprioception. But what you see and hear and taste and touch and smell is coming through, and you can notice those. And then there's this stuff going on in your mind all the time. Well, maybe it's not, but for me, I got a mind. It's churning along all the time, and you can notice the difference between that sensory stuff coming in and the mind stuff, and that's what it's for. It just represents. It also helps us know that the upper part of the matrix is about behaviors that you can see yourself doing or see other people doing, versus the stuff going on in your mind, and you're the only one who knows about that stuff. So it's that.
So we've got someone saying, what if one of the things that's important to the client is not part of his life yet, like a life partner or having a baby, something in the future?
Cool.
Cool.
Wow. So you would write it down like that?
You just put it down in the towards section.
Oh, sure. If they want it there, right? And they write it down like something I want in the future.
Brilliant. So Mary says writing is an act of diffusion. And I think that's what you...
I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't.
You told me to keep this simple.
Yeah.
I'm not using any technical words other than observer self.
Okay, so great. So
you don't have to, and we've taught this to pre-K. Pre-K meaning, here in the United States, that would be just under kindergarten. They're about 4 years old or so.
Right. That's quite young.
Right. And we've had them playing this and doing it with pictures and stuff.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So you don't have to use any technical language.
Now let me ask you, once you've filled all this in and you kind of done your matrix and you've noticed these different parts of it, what do you do now?
Go on about your life.
Right. And do you try, I take it you tried to make an attempt to do what you've written in the top right?
I don't.
You don't?
You could if you wanted to, but I don't.
Right.
I'll just go on about my life and see if that stuff shows up.
Wow. Okay, so you do the matrix and then you just carry on and see what happens.
Yes. Notice what happens.
Notice what happens. And then maybe the next day do another matrix.
Yeah.
Or whenever.
Given the matrix is my business, it's almost guaranteed I'm going to do another matrix.
Right. But what would you reckon the person just, generally speaking?
Well, generally speaking, I would say that, if you're like most humans, it's easy to forget stuff. So you might take this, and there's plenty of examples of the matrix on the internet, folks. You can get this, download one, print it off, stick it on your refrigerator or something so you're reminded of it. Right. And you can look at it and go, oh, yeah. The who and what's important to me goes in the lower right, and the yucky stuff's in the lower left, and, away moves in the upper left. You just learn the basics of it. Yeah. And then maybe it'll become something that you use. Maybe not, but you would want to have some kind of reminder. If you thought it might be useful to you, you'd probably want to print it off so you can learn it. It's not going to take you very long to learn.
Yeah. Well, I find it personally very useful, and I also draw it out. But do you know what I find? I find that my mind can kind of do it. It starts to, when something happens, or when I'm thinking about somebody that's important to me, or when it happens more when I get the yucky stuff that I don't like, it kind of has a visual in my head that it's part of the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes. If you do this enough, it'll get stuck into your, I call it getting, imprinted on your prefrontal cortex or whatever. Yeah. And you'll see it all the time, sort of like a heads-up display.
Yeah.
You'll notice if you're doing, the toward stuff and the away stuff. And once again, we're not judging toward and away stuff. We're just noticing when we're doing it. That's all we're doing. Is just noticing when we're doing it. Now, in the end, you notice workability. You do ask yourself the question, is this stuff that I'm doing working for the life that I want? And that's an ongoing question. So you'll always come back to that. But that's called the workability question. And so you notice what you're doing, and then you notice if it's working for where you want to go in life. And if you don't know where you want to go in life, well, okay. Maybe that's something you'll want to think about. Maybe not, but you just ask the question.
Well, that has been extremely practical and very, really fascinating from the point of view of how to use it.
Did you see how the next thing I did?
Right, go on.
Well, say I switched the slide on you.
Yeah, I see it now. See the chop.
You and your family is important.
Yeah.
And in the upper right is chop wood, carry water.
Right.
And stuff like hunger and tiredness show up. That's unpleasant.
Yeah.
And you eat and you sleep. Chop wood, carry water, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired. That's the way I do the matrix.
Wow. Okay, so it's amazing listening to you. The time has flown by.
Yeah, it happens with this.
Didn't it? You go right into the world of the matrix.
It's a cool world in there.
Well, you've really given us an insight into that world, and those of us who were watching and hadn't come across this before, I think you gave a really clear explanation of what it is, and we did it together. We did it. We followed it. We actually did it.
Fun. You guys did a really good job too. You did.
Wonderful. So, and what's been really great here is that we've had a really interactive time with those that are watching, and it's been fun with you and lighthearted as well. And I think that's what we need. These are serious matters, but you've brought it over in a very light way, which is really nice.
Life is way too serious to be taken that seriously.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So, Kevin Polk, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. And that brings us to the end of this virtual conference for this episode. I appreciate everybody that joined. We're just going to use us saying that thank you very much. This was great. And I absolutely agree. This was great. Thank you very much. Kevin Polk, thank you.
Bye-bye now.